When we gaze upon the wonders of ancient Egypt, it's easy to be captivated by their sheer beauty. The glittering gold of Tutankhamun's mask, the serene faces of stone pharaohs, the vibrant paintings that line tomb walls, they are all, honestly, just breathtaking. But to the ancient Egyptians, this art was so much more than just decoration. It was a living, breathing part of their world, a functional tool designed to interact with the forces of the universe. Every single line, every color, and every pose was carefully chosen not just for its aesthetic appeal, but for its profound meaning. It was a visual language created to communicate complex ideas about life, death, and the divine. The Egyptians believed that the world was filled with powerful, unseen forces. Gods and goddesses controlled the rising of the sun, the flooding of the Nile, and the fate of every human soul. To navigate this complex reality, they needed more than just words. They needed a way to make their beliefs tangible. Art became their solution. A statue of a god wasn't just a representation, it was a potential vessel for that god's spirit to inhabit. A painting of a farmer harvesting grain wasn't just a pretty picture, it was a magical guarantee of a bountiful harvest in the afterlife. Their art was a blueprint for reality, a way of shaping the world to match their desires. This functional approach explains why their artistic style remained so consistent for nearly 3,000 years. It wasn't a lack of creativity that kept them from exploring new styles like perspective. Instead, it was a deep-seated belief that their art worked. The specific conventions, like showing the human body from multiple angles at once, were designed for clarity and completeness. The head in profile, the eye and shoulders from the front, the limbs in motion. This wasn't how they saw people, but it was the most complete way to represent a person, ensuring the soul in the afterlife had a whole and functional body. So, when we look at Egyptian art, we're not just looking at a historical artifact. We are looking at a piece of ancient technology. It was a tool for communicating with the gods, for ensuring a prosperous afterlife, and for maintaining cosmic order. Or, every object, from a tiny scarab beetle amulet to the colossal pyramids, had a job to do. It was practical magic, carved in stone and painted on walls. This art was a bridge between the world of the living and the vast, mysterious realms of the gods and the afterlife, a testament to a civilization that saw no separation between the beautiful and the essential. The ancient Egyptians had a profound and optimistic view of death. They didn't see it as an end, but as a transition, a journey to a parallel world known as the Field of Reeds. This afterlife was a perfect version of Egypt, where one could enjoy all the pleasures of life without any of the hardships. But getting there and thriving required careful preparation, and art was the most critical tool in that process. The tomb was not a gloomy resting place. It was an eternal house, a launch pad for the soul's journey into the next world. It needed to be equipped with everything the deceased would need forever. This belief is the driving force behind some of Egypt's most iconic creations. The magnificent pyramids, for example, were far more than grandiose monuments to a pharaoh's ego. They were resurrection machines. Their shape was thought to mimic the primeval mound from which all life emerged, and the sloping sides were a symbolic ramp for the king's soul to ascend to the heavens and join the gods among the stars. Inside, the tomb was a self-contained universe, filled with treasures, tools, food, and furniture, all intended for use in the afterlife. The art wasn't just the afterlife. It was designed to it. The walls of these tombs were covered in intricate paintings and reliefs, which served as a magical insurance policy. These images depicted the deceased enjoying a perfect existence. Media group, wall paintings of ancient Egyptians farming, agricultural scenes in tomb art at stock at distribute_equally, overseeing their farms, hunting in the marshes, feasting with their family. The Egyptians believed that what was depicted would become real for the soul in the afterlife. By painting a scene of a bountiful harvest, they were ensuring the deceased would never go hungry. By showing them successfully passing the judgment of the gods, they were helping to make it happen. These weren't memories of a life lived, but a magical script for a life to come. Statues of the deceased, placed within the tomb, also had a vital purpose. The Egyptians believed a person was made of many parts, including the, or life force. After death, they needed a physical place to reside, a substitute body it could return to. The statues provided this home. They were carved from durable stone to last for eternity, ensuring they would always have a vessel. This is why they often look so serene and idealized. They represent the person in their perfect eternal form, ready for an eternity of bliss. The art was a practical guarantee of immortality. In ancient Egypt, art was the primary interface between humanity and the divine. In the grand temples that dotted the landscape, art was not for public viewing but for sacred ritual. These temples were considered the literal homes of the gods on earth. Deep within the darkest, most sacred sanctuary, a cult statue of the god would be housed. This statue was not merely a symbol, it was believed to be a physical vessel that the god's spirit could inhabit. Each day, high priests would perform the opening of the mouth ceremony, a ritual to animate the statue so it could see, hear, and receive offerings. The temple walls themselves were covered in reliefs that reinforced this divine connection. The images showed the pharaoh making offerings to the gods and, in return, receiving blessings like life, power, and stability. These scenes were more than just records. They were a form of perpetual worship. By carving these acts into stone, the Egyptians ensured that the offerings and prayers would continue for all eternity, maintaining the crucial relationship between the king and the gods. This constant ritual, frozen in art, was believed to uphold the cosmic balance of order and justice that was essential for the survival of the universe. This connection extended from the grand temples of the state to the private tombs of individuals. While temples were for the gods, tombs were for the souls of the dead on their journey to join those gods. The art inside a tomb served as a guide and a source of power. Paintings and texts from the Book of the Dead provided the deceased with the necessary spells and knowledge to navigate the treacherous underworld, overcome dangerous demons, and successfully pass the final judgment. It was a map, a guidebook, and a cheat sheet for the most important journey a person would ever take. Even in the homes of ordinary Egyptians, art played a role in connecting with the spiritual world. Small statues of household gods like Bees, the protector of the family, or Taweret, the goddess of childbirth, were common. Amulets in the shape of sacred symbols like the Ankh, meaning life, or the Jed pillar, stability, were worn for protection and good fortune. These objects were not just decorative trinkets. They were small, personal points of contact with the divine, weaving a sense of spiritual security into the fabric of daily life and demonstrating that art was an essential tool for everyone, not just for kings and priests. To truly understand ancient Egyptian art, we must learn to read its symbolic language. Every element was carefully chosen to convey a specific meaning, turning statues and paintings into rich tapestries of information. Colors, for example, were deeply symbolic. Green represented new life, fertility, and resurrection, often used for the skin of Osiris, the god of the underworld. Blue was the color of the heavens and the life-giving Nile River, while red could signify life and energy, but also danger and chaos. Gold, with its imperishable nature and radiant sheen, symbolized the divine and the eternal, which is why it was used so lavishly for gods and pharaohs. Animals were also powerful symbols, representing the attributes of specific gods. The falcon, with its sharp eyes and ability to soar high above the earth, was associated with the sky god Horus. The jackal, often seen scavenging at the edges of the desert where tombs were built, became the guide of the dead, Anubis. The humble scarab beetle, which rolls a ball of dung across the ground, was seen as an image of the god Khepri, who rolled the sun across the sky each day. By incorporating these animals into their art, the Egyptians could invoke the powers and protection of these deities. The forms of the art themselves were packed with meaning. The pyramids, as we have seen, were stairways to the heavens. Obelisks, those tall, four-sided pillars with a pyramid-shaped top, were thought to be petrified rays of the sun, connecting the earth with the sun god Ra. Even the classic Egyptian statue, standing rigid and forward-facing, was designed for a purpose. Its frontal pose creates a direct, eternal confrontation with the viewer and the world, while its solid, block-like form gives it a sense of timeless permanence. It wasn't meant to capture a fleeting moment, but to exist forever. Ultimately, Egyptian art was a holistic system designed to define, maintain, and celebrate their understanding of the universe. It was a practical and spiritual tool, a way to make abstract concepts of life, death, and divinity solid and real. By moving beyond its surface beauty, we begin to see it as the Egyptians did, not as static decoration, but as a dynamic and powerful force. Understanding this symbolic language unlocks a deeper appreciation of their culture, allowing us to read their beliefs in the stone and paint they left behind, and to glimpse the profound worldview of this incredible civilization.